We're going to be taking you to a briefing now. Ministers of Water and Sanitation as well as Transport and Human Settlements are holding a joint media briefing due to what we saw taking place in KZN following the site's visit in different parts of KZN. This after recent floods which have led to the loss of lives, damage to critical infrastructure and the displacement of residents. We take you live then to that briefing,
which is the informal settlement upgrading grant, which is going to also be reprioritized to be able to intervene. Out of the work that we have done, we have also requested the provincial government, as we have been engaging, we will come on board together with the province and engaging with the municipality, because we believe that Konobia as a project needs to be fast-tracked and get back on track, because when you look at the capacity of that project, we will be able to get the numbers that we want going forward, and therefore that work is going to be coming in as part of the long-term strategy. What we have done as well is that because previously we had already assigned certain responsibilities in terms of our teams, NHBRC will be coming in to support the province in terms of conducting technical assessment to determine the extent of structural damage to the houses. The human settlements entities are contributing to an excess of about 300 million on top of what we've got to the and this is subject to treasury approval. This is what we are going to go into. Maybe just to break down on this, from our CSOS, which is community schemes on boots, we will contribute about 30 million to this. And as I said, NHBRC will contribute technical support. Social Housing Regulatory Authority will contribute about 100 million for the residential rental relief grant, which will be reallocated to the disaster relief endeavors. We are not taking all, because you'd understand within KZN we've been dealing with some of the areas such as Alo Reach. That commitment remains and will not take resources from that project. In terms of the National Housing Finance Corporation, we have already started to work in terms of our reallocation as well. 150 million allocated to be able to intervene. But again, NHFC will contribute an additional of 2 million from their corporate social investment responsibility, which will be assisting in terms of the social needs of our community. Again, for NHFC, National Housing Finance Corporation, we do have capacity in terms of project management capacity to assist the province with rebuilding and reconstruction of the houses in the province. This will assist us in terms of bringing the relief that is needed. I must say part of what we have done is to engage, because we believe that human settlements is the highly affected. We know that Minister Mbalula as well is highly affected. But from our side, to ensure that there is performance but also protection of the funds that are being provided to the province, we have already engaged with Minister in the presidency. That's why the DG in the presidency responsible for monitoring and evaluation is part of the team today, engaging with them so that they can assist us to consistently monitor the work that we are doing and as we implement the process. We have already started, and we have been assured that the Auditor General's team as well will be involved, so that they are starting to audit the process, learning from what has happened with COVID-19. Our commitment from human settlements, both in terms of national and province, is to say that no funds should be misdirected to any other services except where we want them to go. Our appeal is to the contractors who will be given the responsibility to assist us in rebuilding the houses, to deliver not only within the budget but on time. The second appeal is to the building material people, because what we are starting to pick up is shortages of material. You'd note that when we had to deal with rebuilding after the July unrest, we had difficulties in terms of supply within the province. With this, we believe that it will be exacerbated and potentially with escalations of cost. So our appeal to corporate South Africa is to be patriotic, support us as we rebuild and not escalate the prices in terms of material, but also redirecting some of the materials that we'll need to assist in rebuilding KZN in terms of human settlements. We will start from Tuesday because we have started redirecting the funds and relieving the funds. As we go on to the communities, we went to Ward 103 where we found some of the mud houses that have collapsed. What is better is that we had already prioritized for KZN to remove the mud houses, which will escalate. From Tuesday, the temporary houses will be starting to move on site to be able to provide relief for those who are in the halls and those that we have. We will engage with eThekwini specifically, municipality, because we will need land to be able to put the temporary houses, because some of the areas where the houses have been collapsed we will not be able to put the temporary shelters nor provide alternative accommodation. So that is one of the things that we'll request as we work together. As I'm saying this, the MEC Nomusa Dube and colleagues, is that some of the work that we are doing, it's immediate interventions, and as we go on, where we find glitches, we'll announce and also report back to the communities and South Africans at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. That is such a good, practical, on-point intervention. You know, it's really saying to South Africans and to the people of KwaZulu-Natal, the relief is here. It's starting. There's dates when it's starting. There are monitoring mechanisms, and thank you, Minister, for bringing that, because today at our committee we spoke about that and we said we need measures in place. We don't want to see another PPE things happening, and we said, Treasury, please tell us, because we want to make sure the departments don't start to do things that are not in line. So I'm very happy to hear that. And I hope that we're all going to learn from that good practices, but also the bringing of the AG into the system as we start, so that we all start together with that process of Auditor General monitoring and evaluation, everybody, you know, with those checks and balances in place. Thank you very much for that. Great stuff. Who's next after that? Makungwan, are you ready? David?
Yeah, I think all of us are ready.
Okay, all right.
So, thank you very much. When your employers, when you ask your employers to give you more money for arranging this, you must go to individual houses that you assisted them. Thank you very much, Program Director, MEC for Finance, Nomusa Dube. Greetings to my colleagues from national and colleagues in the province and colleagues in the local government sphere, led by the Honorable Mayor, Mayor Thomas Kaunda, and Deputy Mayor Mavundla, and everybody else who's here, officials, everybody. We have done our preliminary assessment as well in water and sanitation. In the south, that is Uku, in the north, Ilembe, and most importantly, assessment here in eThekwini, which is the center of the storm, if I could put it that way. And indeed, we do realize that there's a lot of damage to water infrastructure, both bulk and reticulation, and there is also damage to water treatment plants, some of them, especially Tongati, where we come from. Let me say that the main problem, though, or main damage is with regard to the two main pipes from Nagle Dam that supply water to the Reservoir Hills, which is the main treatment plant for eThekwini. We went to see that down in Molweni, and we had a conversation with locals there, and they are saying in their own words, they saw something that they've never seen before. They are below the mountain, down in Molweni, where our pipes just above Nanda Dam, and they are saying, lots of big rocks came down rolling, and we could see that, and the impact of those big rocks that came up rolling down to the road. They then broke two pipes that are the main pipes that supply water to Reservoir Hills, causing a lot of rupture in terms of supply of raw water to eThekwini. Now, what then so that is that the impact thereof is that supply of water in eThekwini is reduced. We'll then get into details about how we want to deal with that. We had a short meeting earlier before we went to see the pipes or the damage. We have come up with a proposal which I whispered to the Honorable Mayor, which I think when he responds he will agree with us, that we need to establish a war room for the water and sanitation sector. In other words, this will involve the Department of Water and Sanitation, national and provincially, because we have offices here. This will involve eThekwini municipality, the section that deals with water and sanitation. This will involve Umgeni Water. And we are requesting from my colleague, Kenzani Kupai, that we get someone from Human Settlement to be part of the war room, so that information can flow easily, and so that services can also be discussed at that level with one team. And because we are in a democracy, we ask the officials to choose, because this is mainly a technical team, and they chose Ethnic Msweli, who is the head of water and sanitation in the municipality of eThekwini, to convene that war room of the water and the sanitation sector to deal with all our problems and our challenges here. Now, we asked Ethnic whether he's fit for the job, whether he can face people in the eye, tell them to do work, and they do it, and they complete it, and they report to principals. And he said to us, he is already doing it, he trusts himself, and therefore he is duly appointed for that particular purpose. He is an employee of eThekwini, but we above him, we know there are managers and so on, but we want to put ourselves and the Honorable Mayor and Ministry of DWS and the Mayor's Office in eThekwini to be principals to whom the technical team that Ethnic will be leading will report on a regular basis. Now, we then wanted them or asked them to assess the technical capacity that we have, both at eThekwini in the water entity Umgeni, and with us at DWS, and we 250 technical staff have been identified in these institutions. And therefore we think that we have enough technicians to draw the necessary framework and the roadmap that will have to be followed. We felt we needed to start there so that we are able to entrust this job to people who have the know-how exactly what would need to be done. Secondly, eThekwini have a panel of consultants who will then go out. In our view, they should go out as soon as possible to make the technical assessment of the damage done on site, those that we visited and those that we haven't visited. If there isn't enough skill for some reason, specialized skills in those panels, they will be augmented immediately so that we are able to ascertain accuracy in terms of the damage and the costs that will be required, the costs and the funding that will be required to deal with the work. And then they themselves, after establishing themselves as a technical committee under our guidance, they have established other teams. There are 4 teams. The first team will deal with management of tankered water, which is our first priority in terms of providing water. We realize that an hour or a day with people having no water, it can be a war because this is a sensitive issue of water, but it is also an emotional kind of commodity. If it's not available, you immediately become very emotional because you feel you can't go out of your house without having washed your body. You can't wash your teeth. You can't even cook. You can't. It's a real. When we say in terms of our mantra, water is life, that is in reality what it means. The people that we found in Molweni did complain that they have been without water for quite some time, but we asked them to come down and not to be very angry and to be patient. And therefore, we felt that there is immediate relief that needs to be done, and thanks to eThekwini for what they have provided. There will be additional tankers. I'll go to that later on. But there is a team that will manage that. And we need a team of honest people so that when a tanker leaves whatever abstraction point and it's on the way, it ends up delivering water. It doesn't run around, turn around, empty, and then they claim and say, we have delivered 2 times, 3 times. It's not going to happen. Any service provider will be found doing that, will have to be dealt with. That is tankering. And we know most of them are driven by males. And males like driving these trucks to communities, and they find women and they start selling water to them, or start stopping these trucks and proposing love affairs and all of that. And once they're over that, they will then deliver to that home only. And it has got all these problems. So they will have to be managed very strongly and very strictly. No pure zondi will deal with that. It's better if it's a woman, we can trust her. She will be managing this particular thing. And there will have to be absolute accountability on this. Number of trips done per day by each tanker, where it went. And we would like, Mayor, to appeal to you that where possible, ward councillors sign for the arrival of these tankers whenever they arrive in a ward. The second team will be operations management under Richard Mngoma, water operations, and then Sbusiso Vilane, sanitation operations. That is to recover, to revive all this infrastructure and so on. And then there will be infrastructure repair or replacement under Stutuzo Mjali and Bhavna Soni. And then there will be procurement materials and procurement under Andre Peterson and Bongi Oshabangu. Now, these are the sub-teams that will report to the war room in terms of the area of specialization, in terms of progress and developments. So this is our institutional management, that we institutional setup that we preferred going forward, starting today. Now, with regard to raw water conveyance, we realize that we have done some calculations in terms of current capacity design, current operating capacity, and what can be done right now in terms of supply and demand. And there are some adjustments that can be done, and some of them will depend on restoration of electricity, which we hope that it will soon be done. And so there are going to be a number of adjustments upwards in terms of, as compared to the current capacity to supply, where we've been holding and not supplying at full strength for a number of reasons. That will be dealt with. And Aqueduct 3, for instance, capacity will be increased to about 190 megaliters per day from 175, and that will be done on the 17th. That's like 2 days, the next 2 days. Aqueduct 4, the same. Adjustment will be done in the next 2 days. And then thereafter, there are a number of other operational matters that will be gone into, but all of which will ensure raw water conveyance to the eThekwini system, which is very important, so that you then are able to deal with water shortages. I must say here that we're happy that a number of places are reporting that there is recovery around Umlazi and other places where there were major problems. Now, what are the kind of actions that we are going to go for in terms of bulk water supply? There's something that we call quick wins. We are saying Durban Heights production capacity will be restored by the at 520 megaliters per day by the 24th of April. It's just a couple of days from now to the 24th, so that the northern areas of Durban and like KwaMashu, Ntuzuma, Newlands, Durban North, Umhlanga, Phoenix, and Inanda are covered. Then there will be distribution network in terms of pumps that would require refurbishment so that they get restored to capacity that is required. That will be done by the 22nd of April, which is more or less a week. What we require, Honorable Mayor, is the city manager firstly to be present all the time, and then to look at emergency approvals so that there's no bottleneck in that regard, so that we also cover southern areas. So this is what will be done in terms of bulk water supply. Now further, bulk water supply, Hazelmere Dam, water quality has been affected, of course, because Hazelmere Dam is having its walls upgraded. It's a project that we're on and is due to finish in October this year. But then the storm catches us before we finish that, and the water levels were put low to enable the contractors to finish that, and therefore this is identified as a bit of a problem, and therefore, in order to avoid people getting concerned about getting brown water, alternative will be done, and alternative supply, which will be via tankering until the end of the year or until the end of the project. then we'll resuscitate that. Further, quick wins, the city will be activating some of their teams with regard to leaked pipes or leaking pipes, burst pipes. All of that will have to be attended to quickly. A large portion of Umhlanga has been affected by this process of conserving water, and once the leak has been addressed, water supply will be restored, and we want to apologize to those that will be affected, and to bear with us and to be patient with us. Our aim overall is to enable everybody to get access to water while we are building up whatever capacities in our infrastructure. There are a number of other things, of course, that will be done in regard to reticulation, and quite a number of them. Apart from tankering, I'm saying there will be repairs, minor repairs on smaller and bigger pipes. There will be use of technology. There will be O&M repairs and so on. So that is what is going to be at work, so that everybody has supply of water in their homes. So apart from bulk, which we are saying we are adjusting to make sure that it is available, water is available, we then will extend to reticulation to make sure that all the households have water via these measures that we are taking. There are quite a number of these that will be gone into. I won't deal with details. As far as water tankers are concerned, the south of eThekwini, according to the team, which we agree on, would require 50. Let me just talk about tankers that have been supplied. Cocta has supplied 50, DWS has supplied 50, and then the city 52, and then there are a number of others that will be hired, and so on. But this is regard. Then there is a distribution to the south, to the north, inner west, out, and then outer west, and then the central areas. Now, all of this we are collaborating with the city via this technical team, so that we smoothen the processes, so that people don't hang up, not knowing we're going to be operating as one government as possible, so that we don't have people pointing fingers either at local government or national government or provincial government. We bring things closer in a team that is working as such. And so basically, work is going to start in those two pipes. Possibly the team has got to go back. There are ideas. One idea is to pull water from Enanda Dam, that is abstract water, and then feed it into the system that goes to Durban Heights, which will quicken the process. Once they decide on that, they will have to operate on that immediately, and then fill up the system via that. And that will lead, or that will enable the team to start repairing the two main pipes from Nagle Dam immediately. Maybe temporarily, but of course there will be time for rebuilding. I just want to end up by saying that even without the storm, even if the storm didn't actually occur, we would have had to come to eThekwini as a DWS to engage intensively with the eThekwini municipality. We had an engagement last year in October, but it was not intensive. We could see from what they reported that there were causes of concern. I don't want to say cause for concern, causes of concern, or causes for concern around the infrastructure, water and sanitation infrastructure in eThekwini. We will be coming back, therefore, and engaging intensively on infrastructure because the observations, including in our summit that we held on the 18th and 19th, was that if nothing gets done, starting with the leaks, the volumes that get leaked via the system in eThekwini on water are telling a story that there's something that needs to be fixed rather quicker than later on underground pipes, and then fixing water treatment plants and pumps. So the whole of water infrastructure in eThekwini requires, I would say, kind of a discussion, half a day discussion, so that all of us are one and not put each other under the bus. Because if eThekwini water, if eThekwini leaks the amounts of water that they do, we are all under the bus, even if we are not directly responsible for articulating water in eThekwini. But we have to work as one team and make interventions where necessary. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Minister. I like it how our ministers are so practical, down to practical as to what is it that's going to happen, who's going to do it as well. You've got names, warm bodies that you can touch and feel and see with your eyes. So we know exactly if we're talking interventions, those names that our ministers are talking about, you would know that the minister said, no, it will be Mr. Villane. So you know who to ask, and it was said, no Pure would be the one who must be accountable for tinkering, accountability. So, and I think, Minister, one area that we would also need to keep an eye on, I think you spoke about, though, it's the reticulation, but we will get to that. Minister Dabene Abrams. Thank you. Oh, he said he wasn't ready.
Apologies, Mali. Ministers, all of you here, the MCs, our Directors General, and everyone else that is here, good afternoon. Of course, as the colleagues have explained, we met here because of what has happened. And of course, as the department responsible for small business development, ours is to make sure that as much as the other ministers are looking at saving lives, providing shelter, and the other services, ours is to make sure that the small businesses are there to provide the services that they ought to provide. In this regard, we have therefore visited certain areas, starting with the Cedar Center, which is at Clarewood. We also visited the Ndutukweni Business Hive, and some hawkers in the taxi rank. This we do because we want to get a sense of both the formal businesses and the informal businesses, the impact that these rains have had on those organizations. Of course, working with the city and the province, we've received some preliminary list from eThekwini, as much as we understand that there are other district municipalities that have been affected, your Ugu, Ilembe, Umgungundlovu, Umzinyati, and King Cetshwayo, but for now we have not visited those areas. We are from next week dispatching our teams in order to make sure that they can go there on the ground and find out what are the challenges. We are launching a scheme, actually we're beefing up on our scheme that is meant to assist the informal traders, wherein we expect all those informal traders, for example, in eThekwini, to go to the regional offices and submit their applications, and the minimum support that we provide to those informal traders is 10,000 rands. We therefore move to the formal small businesses. Again, depending on the assessment that will be done, we are looking at providing a sizable amount. We are not able to quantify as yet because it's different needs for the different small businesses. But we are certain that we will start at above 10,000 Rand and up from the formal businesses. We are making a commitment, as you've had Minister Kubai here, for example, pledging 1 billion rands that's going to go to the services that must be provided towards providing shelter for our people. And as a department responsible for small business development is to say, in our claim of not less than 30% that must go to small businesses, it means that we've got to be ready to provide them with a financial support out of that 1 billion rands, a minimum of 300 million rands, and therefore it talks to the financial capability of the small businesses in order to be able to deliver on time and quality, and at the center of that is access to finance. And SIFA will therefore provide the necessary support. We have 800 million rands set aside in relation to the township and rural enterprise program that must assist them, whilst we also have the retail fund. The support that we are providing first on the grant side talks only to small businesses that are not insured. But for those ones that are tapping into the opportunities by the different departments here, it talks to a loan-based fund. At times we do have a blended financing. It depends on which scheme will the small businesses go to. At the center of it, of course, in ensuring that we're working with the different municipalities, as we all said, and the provincial government. As I'm speaking, the provincial government indicated that they're busy trying to consolidate the amount that must go towards the support for small businesses. The application processes for the formal support for the formal businesses will be open from the 25th of April. This we do because others are still taking into consideration and doing assessment what is there and what becomes their requirements, and therefore they will support, they will request the support. We have committed to a minimum of 30 days in terms of response and a maximum of 60 days, because we understand that this is a very critical period for the small businesses to come back and participate in the economy. Failure or delays in implementing that would mean that we're also not helping the economy of this province and other affected areas. That is why we said we are shortening the period, of course without overlooking certain critical things. And for the informal traders, these are the people that wake up every day, go to the taxi rank or some buildings, and they rely on whatever income that they would have made on that day in order to provide food for their families or funding for their children's schooling. Therefore, we said that one, we're giving it 21 days in terms of ensuring that they get the support that they ought to get. And the applications for the informal traders will be open until the 22nd of April. Until the 22nd of April, because we realize they deal with the day-to-day matters, wherein the Marcel, Aprils, and all the other things that are sold. So we open immediately, we close, so that we're able to process within 21 days. We would have delivered all of those that are required. And let me then assure those that are in big businesses. We know that Toyota and others have been affected, and Minister Patel through the Invest SA team are already working with the big businesses in order to provide support, and therefore there won't be challenges that we experience that side. From the small business side, we are saying all the monies that are committed here, ours is to make sure that as you claim your space in terms of getting at least the 30% contribution that must be given to yourselves, CEDA and SIFA will walk this path with you. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Minister. Mr. Bellman. Minister Kubai.
Yes, thank you very much, MEC. MEC Ngonyeni and the mayor and the deputy mayor and the ministers. We responded to not only the call but the declaration by the South African government led by the president
to disaster of KZN. And we arrived here this morning together with the ministers, joining other ministers. The Department of Transport is central in the context of roads that have been affected and washed out bridges and roads throughout the length and breadth of this province. Of course, nationally, but nothing like what happened here in KZN. And in KwaZulu-Natal, like Minister Mkhunu said, the eye of the storm is eThekwini, but also other districts and municipalities throughout the province. We are in the business of road maintenance and building new roads, and at the same time dealing with the crisis or the disaster that we are facing here in this province. So our approach is going to be amended. We allocate resources to upgrading of roads and also building new roads, particularly in KwaZulu-Natal. In our visit to the province, we visited hard-hit areas in the province and the city of eThekwini in particular. We went to Umhlali Bridge on the N2 and witnessed firsthand the extent of traffic blockage and the major inconvenience which the damaged bridge is imposing on our motorists and road users in general. We went to Emolweni and observed with pain how the huge rock, boulders and mudslides have caused a blockage to the road passage, thereby disconnecting our people's settlement areas from much needed amenities and socio-economic opportunities which they are unable to access. We went down towards the south coast on the N2 and conducted an inspection in loco on the disastrous impact on the Ispingo interchange on the N2. The preliminary assessment to fix all affected national road is estimated to be 7 million rands. And the preliminary assessment to fix all the affected national roads, not local, national roads in and around is at 7 million. And in the light of the recent KZN torrential rains, which resulted in flooding and substantial damages in most parts of Central Road Network, access to various parts of eThekwini as well as strategic key points within KZN were affected. Our entity Central is on the ground assessing the situation and providing regular traffic updates to the public regarding affected routes on the network. Most affected areas are N2, North Coast at Umhlali Bridge, the northbound, and is close to traffic diverted to southbound on contraflow as per the attached, as per the information we received. And N2 North Coast at Umhlanga Bridge southbound, slow lane closed due to the damage that is there. And the N2 South Coast at Umkababa, the northbound is closed and traffic is also diverted. And the N2 South Coast at Umkomas southbound is also closed to traffic. And the N2 South Coast near Adams Road off-ramp northbound. Central has initiated a designated 24-hour call center that will be addressing public inquiries on road conditions as well as traffic updates, especially during Easter weekend. and those numbers will be provided in terms of that can be contacted for emergency. The Sanral team of contractors and engineers have already cleaned the majority of the routes that were closed due to mudslides and debris. The remaining areas, as mentioned, also require extensive work, which will be undertaken via emergency procurement, well underway. Of course, prudent management of resources and tight internal control measures will remain key to ensure that no acts of corruption and abuse of public resource occur. The preliminary report from the province has estimated that we need 7 billion rands, 5.7 billion rands. The actual costs will be determined once the detailed estimation have been completed. The National Department of Transport through the PRMG will support the province over the period of 3 years to address the current disaster it is facing with added financial resources. We will require Sanral technical expertise during this particular period. At least 300 kilometers of rail and formations had been impacted, either by being submerged underwater, covered by mud slides, and or even support foundations and bridges washed away. We are currently estimating the impact on rail electrical infrastructure covering a distance of around 300 kilometers. We'll have to redirect budget to recover and rebuild some of these components. Our preliminary estimate includes the work that is already underway to recover the corridors. That is 3 billion rand, which we will need to redirect from the capital expenditure budget. We are visited by this disaster already when we are underway in terms of our capital expenditure project in the context of BRASA. We need to work in collaboration with other entities in our fold, which is Transnet. As you can see, that the damage also that has been caused on your side in terms of container tank, and we will work with them in terms of addressing the situation, particularly in eThekwini. And we will utilize procurement processes and contracts from the likes of Sanral to fast-track delivery. Like I explained, for us, this disaster is visiting us whilst at the same time we do have the capacity and to deliver on some of the things that we need to do. The major issue for us in the Department of Transport is that we don't deal with local roads, it is the municipality, but the situation as it is in terms of the disaster will require funds allocation and deviation to ensure that we support the municipality of eThekwini. And we will be in a position to work on a detailed budget and the other local areas, how we are going to support them in terms of resource allocation before the end of next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Mbalula and Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams, Small Business, for that detailed presentation of the interventions, particularly to small businesses. I think it's really a breath of fresh air to see that they are not left out from the interventions that are being mentioned by our government. It really is quite encouraging to hear the minister speaking of the time frame as well in terms of the turnaround, because sometimes government processes take Mayor, I just want to add something before I allow ministers, but
I don't want Minister Kubai to leave before she answers. I know she said everything. The media was going to ask for questions, but I know they want to ask because they would want to ask. Can I allow the media to ask before Minister Kubai leave, please? Members of the media, please can I hand over to you to ask questions to the ministers. Minister Kubai has got flight constraints. If you could please give space to the ministers to answer your questions. Please, over to you. Can you facilitate? Who is my media facilitator, please? Okay. All right. We'll note the hands.
You give them numbers.
Okay. I note your hands, sir.
Hi, I'm David Dalton from Network. My question is for Minister Mbalula. It seems like there is a fuel shortage in KZN currently.
Yes.
Please can you just tell me if you are aware of that and what is the plan to address those issues? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Can I take another question, please? Yes, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Aviram Dila from ENCA. Maybe for Minister Kubai, just time frames, Minister, on when these even temporary shelters will be built for the people. For Minister Mkhunu, I know you mentioned that there are places that you can't access because of the current water levels, but can you maybe paint a picture of how much worth of the damage is on the ground and just time frames on when it will be fixed? Because we hear some of the people that we've been speaking to, government officials, talk of 6 months before the infrastructure can be sorted out. And the water tankers, are they sufficient? Because people are scrambling on the ground as it is for water. Maybe Minister Mbalula as well, just a clarity on the numbers, because I heard a number of figures. Maybe just a clarity, Minister, in terms of how much damage has been done on the infrastructure and when it will be fixed by.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Belane Pakhadi. I'm from Newsroom Africa. Any taker is fine on who will answer this. I'd assume it will be a cabinet issue so that all the ministers could be able to be free to answer this. The red tape, I'm sure the president also talked about it in his speech in cabinet, I mean in his SONA. How are you going to work with the tendering as far as this particular crisis is concerned? The contractors, how are you going to get them? Are you going to procure them like a disaster is already declared? So are you going to procure them on an emergency basis, or are you going to let all the tendering processes follow, of which will take time? And if not, if you're going to be taking the emergency route, how are you going to ensure that that filters all the way in policy, as per policy, and all in order, corruption free?
Thank you, sir. Can I allow the ministers to answer those questions? I know other questions were actually the ministers did talk on those questions that that are being answered, that are being asked by the members of the media. But if the ministers can please respond, thank you. Yes, Minister.
Okay. Let me start. Thank you very much.
For the colleagues, let me start with the issue around the timeframes for the TRUs. As for the colleague from ENCA, we are starting from Tuesday in terms of the work, in terms of across. Each area will depend in the area where there is land already available and we are able to put temporary structures. We will be able to do that immediately. As I highlighted, you'd have a challenge, for example, where people were staying, let's say, in high areas like in mountainous areas or steep hills, and you can't build anything temporary there. So it needs the relocation. Those will take longer. based on the availability of us finding the land to be able to relocate them. But conversations and engagements are happening for us to fast track in terms of temporary shelters. But quite a number of areas where there are spaces that we can put people, we are doing that. In relation to the red tape and just how government has identified the issues around constraints in red tape, and that's why from the economic cluster point of view as well, there's work that is being done to ensure that around the reforms each area is identified, and that's why the President during SONA announced a red tape, what we call red tape SAR, to be able to look at the red tape and reduce that. From a point of procurement processes in terms of PFMA provides an opening, like a compliance process for emergency procurement. So that is something that needs to be complied with. It's not something that you just do. So within the regulations of Treasury, National Treasury, within PFMA, you are able to provide, you are able to procure within the emergency space. For departments such as ours and others, for example, you'd have that as KZN, for example, would have panels that are appointed up front who are doing work. So simply what you do, you go as well within the procurement framework to be able to do the appointments. So there is an opportunity, and it's doable for us to turn around the time in terms of appointment and be able to deliver in terms of these emergency services that we are doing. You raised the issue, how to ensure that it's corruption free. When I spoke earlier on is that we have already engaged Minister Kungubele in the presidency around the monitoring and evaluation, how we are doing the work. Secondly, around Auditor General, not come towards the end in terms of audit, but audit as we do the work, so that that process where there are red flags, they are able, immediate interventions are done, so that you don't have wastage of money and then you pick up at the end of the tunnel. But again, within Treasury regulations as well, it does provide for processes for you to be able to intervene, especially in situations like this once, especially because if we look at it, disaster has been declared, so it allows for certain processes to be followed. So all of us have to comply with that as government departments. Thank you very much.
Just to deal with how much, I don't know at this stage. There will have to be competent people who will have to go on site where there is damage and make an assessment of exactly how much will be required to deal with those damages, including the one of the main pipes that I don't want to make my own estimation. It might be small, and when it comes to actual estimation and payment, and then they come with a bigger figure, and then it will be like there's something that we're doing in terms of accountability. So we want to come with one figure after proper evaluation, but it will be quite substantial. If you add the fact that we may need to take an opportunity to also get into the real issue of infrastructure that has deteriorated to a point where you were going to do something anyway. If you lose more than 40% of your water to the ground, you always had a deficit in terms of what you needed to do. So that will have to be taken into account when that gets discussed. Then people scrambling for water. We have said the immediate response to such situations, one is to supply water via tankers. And the tankers are already on the ground. They are supplying water. They need to be increased in line with the numbers that have been identified and those that have been already procured. But over and above that, there are repairs as I'm talking now. That's why people that I spoke to, Mlazi, were saying the situation is improving in a way, even before we start dealing with raw water supply, just increasing it from what it is at the moment. Otherwise, it's not a matter we take for granted. We share the pain, we share the frustration, and never mind that it is the storm. It is just weather, unlike when it has to do with failure to maintain pipes, which is human-driven. But this one is from above. But apart from that, we still share the pain, because whether the lack of water is as a result of the storm or what, it is painful. You have to do this and that because water is life. And so we're minding that very much. So this tankers is minor repairs that will quickly turn the situation around, but also getting into more substantial repairs to ensure people get water. My colleague has responded to what you refer to as red tape, and I may just as well add another element to it, that accounting officers are able to reprioritize in terms of their spending on programs that are there, like in situations like this. But the bottom line, and accounting officers will have to know this, that this is no opportunity to do any other thing outside regulations and outside policies. If they do so, they will be applying for something else. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First, with regard to the damage, I've said that the preliminary report from the province have estimated 5.7 billion. We said that the actual costs will be determined once the detailed estimation have been completed. Because the damage is also to the local roads that are repaired and maintained by the municipality. So we will have to come on board to assist the municipality, but the municipality together with the province will give us a detailed figure in terms of the damage of the infrastructure at the local level. For instance, if you look around eThekwini, bridges and roads have been completely washed out, and it means we have to start afresh to rebuild those roads. The main arteries of the national road, Sanral is going to fix those. If you look at both the N2 and the N3, which we visited and I explained, that work is going to be undertaken as we speak, where we started in the N2, removing all those things. That work have started, but is temporarily closed. And the estimation of how long we are going to take to fix that road is going to be 6 months. And that work is going to start immediately. In terms of Sanral, we do cater for emergency and procurement. We are doing that almost as you would have seen in the Eastern Cape, fixing the roads there that were also affected by the storm and all of that. That's what we're going to apply here in KZN. But we have committed that we will redirect some of the resources that we allocate to the provinces and increase for the disaster purposes here in KZN. It will take some time, but I don't want to thumbsuck and give you figures that tomorrow you ask. I believe in sitting down, get the figures and make a proper announcement. But the damage is huge because every district, township is actually affected. I will not be able to assist you fully with the fuel shortage, but I'm aware of that. And our sister department, the Department of Public Enterprise, is dealing with that particular matter specifically. And in terms of how we are going to intervene with regard to fuel shortage and all of that, I think Minister Pravin Gordhan and Minister of Energy should be in a position to help us with regard to that. I will not be in a position to give you an elaborate answer about what is going to happen. But overall, what I can tell you is that it's going to be hands on deck, working with the municipality, working with the province to fix the damaged infrastructure in terms of roads in the province. And in the next coming week, we should be able to give you detailed answers with regard to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Mbalula. Mayor Kanda.
Okay.
inkinga ibala
awubonakali
Secela kukamacingwane lapha kuna neshethele emhlophe. Secela kukamacingwane.
Ndiza kusulela nge-complexion mfowethu.
No, thank you very much, Program Director, all ministers present, MECs, colleagues from the municipality and officials and members of the media. Firstly, we would like to express our words of gratitude to His Excellency, the President of the Republic, for paying a visit a day before yesterday to the city to conduct assessments as well as to meet with families who have lost their loved ones in the province. He did commit that there will be an interministerial team that will be coming following him and his visit. Indeed, today, we are receiving a detailed intervention from the interministerial team, which gives us not a theoretical work, but what needs to be done at what time and who is responsible. So that is highly appreciated. And we really get this as a relief to us as a municipality because we have all our infrastructure being damaged in water, electricity, human settlement, houses of the people, as well as electricity. So with these interventions, we are happy that communities will be assisted. And there are clear timelines which will be able to work together with all the departments to ascertain that these responses are indeed finding expression on the ground. We welcome the war room by the Minister of Water and Sanitation, Honorable Macingwane. Would like maybe to add one department there, which is electricity, that to be part of that, because once they don't give us electricity, we won't be able to pump in some of the pump stations. So they have to be part of this war room to ensure that the operations are fully operational. We also welcome the interventions from human settlement. Of course, we have already started to look for the land because the minister did indicate that we must look for the land to relocate communities who are seated at dangerous places, especially go Ushwini, Molweni and other areas, Ward 15 on the HL Mnyama and other surrounding areas where people need to be relocated. The sooner the better, because we've got to save lives. That is our primary objective, to save people's lives. We also welcome the transport intervention. Honorable Minister, you know that you flew around and you saw what is happening. So all our economic linkages, those infrastructure, bridges and the roads are severely damaged. So they need urgent attention. So we really appreciate and welcome that intervention. With small businesses, Honorable Minister, we also thank you for that because our emerging businesses in our city, in township, in rural areas, especially in those who are informal traders within the CPD, are experiencing big challenges out of all these floods that we have received. We also wish to appreciate the intervention when it comes to coordination of the entire work so that we are able to respond, because there is work that will be done by the provincial departments in their different spaces, to ensure that we also put more efforts and resources to respond to the issues that people are raising. We'll be appealing to the Minister of the Police. We still have a big number of people who are still missing in the region, who have not been identified. In many places that we have visited, people give you numbers. One family in Zinyati, Mdlalose family, they've lost 10 people. So only 4 that have been identified, 6 is still missing. So it indicates that the magnitude of the work that needs to be done with the rescue services, if that can be also reinforced, so that we fast track the process, so that the families will also have the direction what to do, rather than remaining without knowing what needs to be done. There is a team that is coordinated by the Director General of the province, with the city, that is dealing with how what becomes the relief, especially for the families that won't be able to bury or to lay to rest their loved ones, as to how to intervene as a municipality with the provincial departments, and also provide support services, including counseling. The families that we have met, they are really in dire need of counseling, because this situation has brought about devastation to their lives. So we need to provide such services with immediate effect, so that they start getting preparation as well for the funerals going forward. So all in all, we are happy as a city that we are not alone. We are a unitary state, that whatever happens, the government is here, the government of South Africa. So we really appreciate that. As a city, we'll also be applying MFMA to ensure that in areas where contracts needs to be fast-tracked, and the mayor is able to do that using the provision of the MFMA to do such. But of course, closing the leakages in terms of the space for any corruption to take place, so that we ascertain that all the monies will be directed to the work that needs to be done. With those few words, we thank all of our leaders who are present today. We've been joined by MEC Ravi Pillay as well, who have joined us, and many other government leaders who are present. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Minister Mkhunu, we would request your immediate intervention, perhaps with your officials, for capacity to restore water to hospitals and clinics in particular. I think that's an urgent one, an immediate one. We need that, because tankering and other means is not sustainable. So as an immediate one, I think we'll really appreciate that one. We appreciate that ESCOM has agreed that KZN will be excluded from power cuts while we are facing the situation, and we have requested that municipalities should ensure that we keep to this commitment by ESCOM, that we do not cut power, so as to ensure that our communities and the infrastructure that needs to be restored is done speedily, and communities that are in community halls and hospitals and clinics are able to work without any interruptions, so as to restore life to normality in these abnormal situations that we are facing. So we do request really our officials and our technical team that they do give support to those municipalities to ensure that they know what to do in case they are not having that capacity. And we appreciate, Ministers, all of you, in particular water and sanitation, the capacity that we are getting, because I think in the main, it's the capacity that we are going to be needing, even with the reticulation, because we can restore the bulk, but if people are not seeing the water in the taps, it's going to be
a futile exercise to have the bulk there without reticulation. People would connect illegally, and we're going to have water leaks, and it's going to be back again to the vicious cycle of water that goes without being structured. And the aqueduct as well, Mayor, I think that's music in our ears, hopefully. Ethnic and them are taking stock of that, and our communities really are looking forward to these infrastructure being restored. Colleagues, members of the media, I'm sure all the questions have been answered. I'm not seeing any hands. Everybody's satisfied.
Only one thing I'm missing. I just want to add one thing, that we'd like to appeal to our committee members to unblock the roads, because we are faced with a disaster situation here.
Yes.
So if we do not unblock the road, all the teams that the ministers have spoken about, they are going to be unable to really unlock those services and restore services. So it is important that people refrain from looting exercises, and it has been over-exaggerated that as if looting is dominating the entire thing. Police have done a wonderful job there to arrest those who are involved, and the situation is stable. So I think that's what we want to appeal to our committee members. There are individual organizations in our committees who are busy mobilizing communities to rise during this period. So I think what we need here is collaboration more than anything. Let us work together to rebuild the city, and it is possible to rebuild the city. I thank you.
Yes, thank you for making that point. We have the social development, social workers who could not get to those households that needed counseling so desperately yesterday and today, because the roads were closed, but also because they were intimidated when they were trying to get to those households. And it was very, very sad that they had to return. The other group, their cars were stoned, and we're really appealing that we know that there are communities that might have been angry because of they've been without water and electricity for prolonged times, but we are appealing that there are call center numbers that have been made available for communities to call and inform departments that they have not received tankers and that they have not received services, instead of blocking those roads, so that help and assistance can get to other communities. We've also heard of other tankers that get held up in other areas and not allowing those tankers to move to other communities. And we are really appealing even to councillors, as Minister Mkhunu was saying, that councillors should also take responsibility of monitoring the tankers, that tankers move from one ward to the other. Because it doesn't help that, as he was saying, tankers stay in one area and it doesn't move to the other areas, and we end up with other communities not getting, the desperately needed services. Colleagues, members of the media, thank you so much for your time, and ministers, thank you very much for your time and for your dedication, and thank you very much to His Excellency the President, our Honorable Premier, and to our DGs, HODs, thank you very much, members of the media, thank you for your time. We adjourn our meeting for now, and MECs, thank you very much. The Interministerial Committee will meet at a later time. Thank you. The provincial one, thanks.